Welcome to the Tech and Accent podcast.
Here you will learn about being an expat, working abroad, technology, and more from non-native English speakers. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode of Tech and Accent, a podcast that was created for non-native English speakers to share their stories with us. And today we have Rafaela Azevedo here with us. How are you doing, Rafa?
Yeah, all good. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. I am super happy that you accepted the invitation to be here in our podcast. You are a professional that I admire a lot, so I'm super happy to have you here. Could you please introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm Rafaela. I have 16 years experience in QA right now. I have been working in big corporations and startups, so I have done all the kind of cycle in the software development.
That's great. So could you tell us from where are you, where do you live at the moment, and how do you got there, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Brazil. I'm from a seaside town called Santos. People they know maybe because of the footballers that come from my hometown, like Pelé, Neymar, and all of these. Although I hate football, but this is how I can use what I can use as a reference for my hometown. And I moved to London 10 years ago. 10? Yeah, 10. Yeah.
That's quite a lot.
I was just I managed to get the citizenship some years ago, so I'm definitely staying here for a long time as well. It was one of the biggest decisions of my life, and I definitely don't regret. And one of the reasons why I moved to London was exactly because opportunities, economy, and also because I like to challenge myself. So I just thought that Brazil was really good in terms of my professional. I was already a leader in the automation group at the Fit. But even if it is like I could try something more. And then I did my first trip to USA, and then when I realized, because before that I never really thought about moving out, but then when I went to USA I saw how things were different. I could walk by myself, and in the evening, kind of safety was really important as well. And Santos is such a small town, and even if it is, I had problems like people trying to steal my phone, which is quite normal in any big city, to be honest. But when I went to USA and I saw everything like working, I just started to kind of cooking the idea in my head, and then I just had to decide which country I had to go. I don't know if you had the same kind of experience, or if you had something in mind already, like straight away.
So in my case, I had the idea of living abroad, but I am a very, like in Portuguese we say bairrista, which is a person that is really from your neighborhood. I'm from Porto Alegre, the south of Brazil, and before getting to know my wife, I was really thinking that I would live there forever. And she, when we met, she had just came back from Australia for a 2-year trip, and she really wanted to live abroad again. So she was the person that convinced me that we should live abroad. And for quite a long time, I wanted to live, and I told her, okay, so if we are going to live abroad, it has to be California in the United States. This was the thing that was in my mind. I never thought of Europe. But then we started thinking of maybe Australia, because she has a passion for the country. She lived there. And then I started applying for different positions. I applied for one in Australia, one in Denmark, and one in Norway. And Norway was the country that chose me for my first move from Brazil to Europe. And then from Norway to the Netherlands, from the Netherlands here to Spain. And I don't regret not going to the US. Actually, I love Europe nowadays, and it opened my mind in terms of like how much you can experience living in Europe. You live in London. London is my favorite city in Europe because it's one of the
Mine
biggest
too.
cities, and I love big cities, and it's so diverse. Like you can be in one place in London. I used to say that if you are in London for a trip, you can't see everything. You need a whole life, and even so, you won't be able to get a feeling of. It's such a big city, so it's one of my favorites.
Hmm. Okay, that is curious.
Yeah. Uh, Changing the subject a little bit, Rafa.
Yeah.
One thing that I know about yourself is that you are involved in Web3 technologies. So, could you tell us about your experience with Web3? What kind of projects have you worked on in this specific field? What is similar and what is different than Web2 projects and that kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah, sir. Sure. Well, I was working Web 2 as like everybody else, and I remember that my brother, actually my oldest brother, he was the one that was talking about Bitcoin some time ago, and then I didn't really pay attention on that, and also I was like, I checked it a bit, and because this is such an evolving tech and it's still in the beginning,
Mhm.
sometimes you need to go through a lot of kind of different content to actually see what makes more sense and how you understand better. So when I first was checking what was Bitcoin, and I didn't understand too much, to be honest.
Mhm.
So then I just stopped it, just paused it, just didn't want to know anything anymore. And then after a while I saw again the trending coming, and then I start to look again for not only for Bitcoin, but then I start to understand what was the technology behind, which is
The
blockchain.
blockchain, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then when I actually understood it, I just like, oh my gosh, this is the future. And then especially because of the decentralization part of the concept,
Yeah.
how it works. Of course, there are so many blockchains at the moment. It's hard to keep up as well because it is something new, and also because a lot of people, they are creating their own blockchains, and every time it's a different kind of structure, infrastructure, and all of that.
Mhm.
But then I just like focus on some of them. So the most common one, Ethereum, Solidity, and this one I know that we can build loads of different things, especially the apps, decentralized apps and tokens. So I focus more on this one, and then I start to, of course, learn by myself. I like to I don't know. Oh, my dog. So
No worries.
I like to I don't do too many courses. Usually I do, as I think most of people, they do that as well. They go first, first interaction is like a YouTube kind of this, and and then yeah, I start to build projects in Web3, uh like token, and the other ones was, oh yeah, yeah, the one that was like adopt a dog as well. But this was like not really commercial, but
Mhm.
because I have a lot of knowledge, I start to do like talks and conferences, and then I do some kind of consultancy nowadays as well. So I'm always learning. It's something that in the tech area, to be honest, you're always learning everything.
Yeah.
You never stop. So if you think that you're gonna learn something and stop, that is not the case. And with like emerging techs, AI and blockchain, Web3 right now, which is blockchain, Web3 is everything that is built on top of blockchain and uses blockchain technology. So yeah, when it's something new like that, you need to keep up to date like all the time. And this is something that is really hard because we have our own like other things to learn, like frameworks that come. So before was Cypress, then Playwright, and because we work in quality assurance and
Yeah.
test automation. But then you have these other techs coming as well, AI and prompting, all of this. So yes, it is a bit overwhelming sometimes, and that's why I start to build this the Chain Academy company, which is about helping people to come to Web3 and learn with like guidance and roadmap, basically.
That's a
But
company of your own that you have started, right?
yes, yes. It's still in the beginning. We are testing the MVP, but it is really exciting because it's something completely new that I'm doing. So I'm learning a lot. Not only I don't do like a lot of software development anymore. Although yesterday was coding, but when you have your own thing, your own project, you need to learn like all different things. So I was doing marketing as well. Other day I was playing with Google Ads. But yeah, I try to keep you busy.
Yeah. If you can send me the link to your startup webpage, I can add in the show notes afterwards so people can connect with you as well. One thing that I wanted to explore that you haven't mentioned is the similarities and differences between Web 2 and Web 3. If you could explore this a little bit.
So the main difference is you don't have the centralized server anymore. Everything is in the blockchain, and the blockchain is basically this. It's basically like a big database that everybody has a bit and everybody contributes. So it's really decentralized, and the way that you interact with them with the blocks is like smart contracts. So you write the smart contracts and then you need to get approval, and then if everything is all right, like if people not people, the nodes, the computers, if they can actually solve the puzzle, then you can add this block in the blockchain. And these blocks they contain all the transactions like that you have done and like people have done. So it's like a big database across different computers. I don't know if you probably remember, P2P network is the same thing. So people, they interact with each other. There's not a central point. So for example, when you're doing a transaction and you're buying or paying for something, instead of like going through the bank, even though you are using a card and it looks like you are doing the transaction straight with this person, the transaction still needs to go through this central point, which is the bank. With blockchain, it just goes straight from one wallet to another wallet. So it's the same thing as you were paying something with cash and receiving with cash. There is no intermediate kind of. So this is the main thing for the infrastructure. So you don't connect to only one server anymore. And the similarities is basically you still have this kind of database. So at least this is the point that I like to always highlight, because people, they think is what is blockchain. It's hard to understand the concept. Of course, this is really hard when you're for example learning about the tech. It's not only about, for example, when you are learning about framework like Cypress or Playwright, you need to understand that technology as well and how it works. So this business part is like concepts, is another layer of knowledge that you actually need to learn before you start coding and learning about how to code in blockchain, like using Solidity or any other kind of programming language like Rust as well. But yeah, the similarities, I would say, front end is still the same. You don't need to worry about this kind of layer, but and you are still like adding to like a database, but it's not centralized anymore. So I would yeah,
Yeah.
I like to highlight this part. Yeah.
Yeah, this tool that we are using at the moment to talk to each other, for instance, it uses what you mentioned before, peer-to-peer. There's no server in the middle. We are connecting together through peer-to-peer connection.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if you completely out of topic, but I don't know
yeah,
if you know there is like WhatsApp is to like goes through Facebook servers, but there is just open here. There is another like communication app called I just saw it and I forgot. Kit. Yeah, Kit. KEENT, and they do this kind of a P2P connection as well, so you can straight communicate with the person. So there is no, so basically you definitely know that your messages, they are not going through like a server. There is no still problem like with hacking and all this, but at least it's more secure. But the only bad, the bad part of it is basically if you're offline or something, it doesn't go to a server and doesn't load from the server your messages. So basically, you don't receive. But yeah, always, everything has like a downside, right? Like,
for sure. Yeah. One curiosity that I have, which is not in our agenda, but I would love to hear from you. So blockchain is allowing companies, people to do lots of stuff that were not possible before, or that were more bureaucratic or just more difficult because the technology that we had in hand. In a previous episode of the podcast, I interviewed Hubert, which was the ex-VP of engineering at Typeform, and I worked with him. And one thing that he mentioned that I am trying to connect with our conversation here is that nowadays, we already know how to use technology to make money. This is something that we do. Like, we use technology to make money in many different aspects of our lives. But technology can enable so many more stuff. So I wondered if you could explore a little bit of what can we achieve in terms of other stuff that could be done with the blockchain, with Web3 technology that is not specifically related to just making money. Do you have any examples?
That is not only about making money. You mean like not only transactions, like
I mean like
money, financial transactions, kind of.
I mean, just not like.
Well, I can. I'm just like making sure that I understood correctly. So not like.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, like helping with NGOs or other aspects of our societies that are not related to like just.
There is one really famous. So, for example, you can. You can voting system, you can use the blockchain as the technology behind. So basically you don't need to have a central point anymore. In Brazil or USA, they still use papers, by the way. There is always like somebody like counting and all this, and they still need to like put this like in a central part. So this is one thing. Identification is another one, which is a big thing. There is a news that I read not too long ago that was exactly about somebody. It was a really famous conference, DAVCON, I think the name. They put like a fake profile in there, and it was like a woman because they were trying to. I don't know what happened, but sometimes they try to find a woman. And this conference, they just faked this profile of a woman that was working for Ethereum. It's really ironic that she was working for Ethereum, like a blockchain, and blockchain can be used to one of these use cases that can prove that whatever you put in the blockchain is actually true and it's not a fake. So you can prove your identification there.
Yeah, that's great. I liked the voting system as well, because we hear that sometimes someone wins an election and we don't know exactly if it was really because everyone voted or a bigger percentage of people voted in this person, or if it could be hacked and the numbers were changed. So that's a great one that could be beneficial for societies in general, right?
Yeah, it's a lot more secure than the current system, to be honest.
Yeah. Another thing that I am curious to hear from you is about your community contributions. So I know that you are a person that is always in podcasts like this one, in conferences, and in YouTube channels and that kind of stuff, and you have your own startup. So could you tell us about your community contributions? And also one thing that I'm curious about is, because of your involvement in communities, did it help you grow in your career?
Yeah, sure. Um, oh yeah, that is funny because I started my blog in 2011, and that blog was mostly because of me. To be honest, I'm being completely selfish here, but I have a really bad memory. And sometimes when you go from one project to another or one company to another, you need to set up everything from the scratch, from the beginning. And most of the time, it's like same kind of process, same kind of tool even, or benchmark that you have done. Of course, depending on the time, you need to redo these again. But most of the time I could reuse. And for me to remember, I start to blog about my experience and everything that I learned, like workarounds that I have done as well when I was like using frameworks and coding. And then yeah, people start to come and talk to me. Oh, Rafa, thanks for your post. I didn't know about that. And that was really rewarding already, like having this kind of feedback. And I think it was a bit before the pandemic, I start to push a bit more myself, because to be honest, I hate public speaking. I'm horrible. I got really nervous. We used to be really worse. Now it's a bit better, but I always got a bit nervous about it. And then because it was during the pandemic, it was like like us right now, it's just like video calls, which is better than presential for me. So I just like did that, and yeah, people just come to me and they thanks, especially because there are not too many women in tech. Now in Web3 and blockchain is even less. And now that I'm opening my startup, female founders is even less. So it is always nice to hear from other people, especially of course like women that Rafa, you gave me some motivation. I actually had a YouTube channel as well back in the days when I was like explaining how was my moving to London and what I did to find a job, and how was like the difference as well from Brazil, especially like work career related, and finding myself here, how the tube, that was a bit complex. But and then people still like come to me on LinkedIn and they say, oh, Rafa, thank you for that, because you really helped to get us out of Brazil or something like that. And okay, that is nice. I mean, if it's working, hopefully, yes, it was a good experience for me. So I just like share with people as well how how I did, how I manage everything. And your other question was if it helped with my career. Yes, definitely. Sometimes people find me just because I'm in the community, so they come to me and they ask me if I want to apply to the position they have in the company. And yeah, that I always like, even like I did LaTeX career workshop other day for Leicester College, and I start to these students that you need to build your portfolio, your credibility, especially when you're a junior. When you're a bit like more senior like us, it's easier to find a job and it's easier to prove ourselves. But as a junior developer, and when you are starting the career, it's really important to build your credibility, and that's why I'm focusing on that in the startup as well, because there are so many other like junior developers coming as well, so you need to be kind of on top of this. And how you become, you know, one of the top ones to be chosen is actually when you share your knowledge, when you learn from that as well, because you know sometimes you can, and this is all about exposure. So sometimes you work like 10 years in one company, but you don't have the same exposure that, you know, somebody that is like coding as a hobby like through the night during like, you know, the whole year. You know, this person had a lot more exposure than this, so different kind of experiences. But yeah, you know, you need to consider that when you are starting, it's really important to build your credibility, your portfolio, and helping the community is one of them, one of the key things that you can do, basically.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can relate to all you have said, because in my case it was very similar. Both things. When I started blogging, it was blogging for myself, because I would forget things, and I
Selfish.
would have to I would have to research again. And after 3 times having to research the same thing, I said, you know what, I'm gonna write it down, and if I need to remember, I know where to look for. And afterwards,
Exactly.
people started reading what I was writing as well. And the same thing with my community contribution. It helped me a lot to be where I am nowadays. So I highly agree with all you have just said. Changing the subject completely to a different place now. There's one common question in this podcast here, which we ask all our guests, which is, do you have any embarrassing moment living abroad that you could share with us?
Yeah, there was one really recent actually. We have this like group on WhatsApp with the founders of the incubator, and one of the founders asked, he's actually Brazilian as well, and he asked, guys, I didn't understand this message from this investor. He said something like WC something, and I don't remember what. But then he asked, what does this mean, you know? And then I thought, that is really weird. Like, and then I said to him, you know, why does he want to meet you in the bathroom? Like, is he, because, you know, WC? I don't think it's really embarrassing, but, you know, I thought that is really funny. Like, the guy is probably like really, really busy, because he doesn't have time to even like book a meeting in a room. He needs to like, let's meet in the bathroom when I have like 5 minutes or whatever. But yeah, that was really funny. And then it happened not too long ago. So this is,
That's a funny one for sure.
And I don't know if you know what it means. I didn't say, but it's like week commencing. So basically, beginning of the week. And I had no idea.
Right. I didn't know as well.
Me neither. Yeah.
Okay. Now I have another question for you, which I asked a similar one to my previous guest here in the podcast. So let's say you could choose to go to the past or the future, and you would not age, and you would know everything that you know already. Which one would you choose, and what would you do?
I think I would like to go to the past with the same knowledge that I have right now. Is that
and what would you do there?
I think I would.
And to which year maybe you would go back?
Oh God, Jesus Christ, that is a good question. Maybe when I was finishing uni, maybe. Yes, I think I would go back to when I was finishing uni, or beginning of the uni, which was 18 years. And what would I do? Basically, I would not take that much time to do things that I had in mind a long time, but you know, I was just like, I don't know, postponing, because I thought, you know, it's the how do you call it, imposter syndrome or something like that. And that we always like, I'm not gonna do that because it's not gonna work, blah blah blah. And then, you know, I think I would just like go for it, whatever. Which is something that I do right now. I don't think I'm too old to do that, but yeah,
Yeah.
I just like to take this approach for life. Nowadays, I just like try, do it, whatever it happens, it happens, and at least you try. But I prefer to regret about no, I don't regret about anything that I have done. But I would love to take less time to you know push myself and do things that I haven't done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
I was wondering here, since you decided that you would go to the past, because like now that we talked about Web3 and blockchain and Bitcoin, maybe you could go to the start of Bitcoin, invest all your money on
Exactly,
Bitcoin, and get rich.
exactly. You know what? This is one of the things. Actually, I completely forgot about that. Yes, let's go back. So I would go back to when I first heard about Bitcoin, and I would have about like loads.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. And you would be done, and then you would be rich, and
No, yeah, but to be honest, I think even if I was like, super rich and all this, I think I would be really bored. I think I would need to do something. I wouldn't
for
be
sure,
able.
yeah, you would invest
God,
in
this
your
is
own
so
company,
nice.
you would do whatever you like, but yeah, for sure, we cannot stop. That's for sure. It's not just because you have money that you have to stop living, right?
So people they
Um,
just want to go to islands and drink margaritas, which I don't blame as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Another curiosity I have from you is there any other profession that you would like to have if you did not work in tech?
Mm, 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 if money was not important,
Hmm.
to be honest, I love I knew that I was going to work in tech forever, and I love what I do. Uh, but I think I would work with like pets and dogs and like be a vet. But before, when I was younger, I also thought about going to legal stuff and do like be a lawyer.
Hmm.
um but then I realized, yeah, I need to read loads of books.
Yeah,
Which in tech we need to study a lot as well. So but at least I'm like, it's not theory, like I'm using the things that I'm
yeah,
learning, so
yeah, yeah,
it's a bit different. And I'm really practical, so I like to test things out and
yeah.
experiment things. So
I like that you
yeah.
mentioned working with pets. When we lived in Norway, me and my wife, we
Yeah.
had two cats. Nowadays we have just one. But at that time, when we were traveling for a longer time than 2 days, we would ask a pet sitter to go to our place, feed our cats, cuddle them a bit, clean their stuff, and give them
The
water.
messy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And my wife, she was living there with me, and it was super hard for her to get a job as a marketeer in the Nordics. So she
Mm.
worked as a pet sitter, and
Ah,
she was like walking dogs and cuddling cats and feeding them. And it was such a nice experience because you don't need to speak Norwegian to talk to a cat or a dog. And
no.
like
No.
we are vegans, so we care a lot about the animals. So I like that you
Oh.
mentioned that.
I tried to be vegan, but unfortunately it didn't work. It worked for like one week. I felt so bad because I thought, oh my god, I'm a lot. And I feel bad as well because I'm really in favor of pets and animals, and I do contribute. Actually, my first idea, as for the startup, was about like pet sitting as well.
Hmm, interesting.
um it was like, I don't know if you have these there, but it's like Rover. The name is a big company right now. They do like pet sitting. People, they go to your house and they walk your dog and all this. But
Yeah,
yeah, that was my first idea, and then I thought, I took too much time because this was like in the beginning of the pandemic, and I saw the trend. People were like, of course they were gonna get more pets, exactly because they can work from home. Now some people they are getting rid of, which is horrible. God Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
yeah,
This is just disgusting. But yeah, it happens. Maybe my next one is gonna be, you know, finding a home to these pets or fixing this problem because
yeah. And if you are interested in trying again veganism, there is a new documentary on Netflix called "You Are What You Eat," and they made a
oh
scientific experiment with twins that are like, and they are twins of the same sex. They are identical
yeah,
twins.
identical.
One is omnivore and the other one is vegan, and they made lots of experiments. It's really cool, and it's something that can maybe change your mind in that sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a look. I mean, it can change in my mind, but the thing is, if I smell the my problem is if I smell the meat, that's it. Then that's it.
Yeah, yeah, I
Like,
see.
oh,
Yeah, I would say as a vegan for more than 3 years nowadays, that
mm,
the vegan industry is evolving quite a lot, even
yeah,
in terms of the texture, the smell, and everything. Like in Amsterdam, there is a place called Vegan Sushi Bar where they make vegan sashimi, and you taste it, and it looks like fish. It's just crazy. And same for shrimp and like burgers nowadays. And there's a lot of stuff that you in this documentary they mention about different vegan cheese, and it's just crazy
ah,
how the industry is evolving in this sense.
yeah. Don't get me wrong. I love vegan food. Like I try all the time. That's why I thought, oh, maybe I can be vegan. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just it's a nice documentary. Even if you don't turn into it, it's a nice one to watch.
yeah,
Rafa, it's been great to talk to you. Is there anything you would like to ask me? I've been doing all the questions here.
yeah. I wanna ask you, from you how was to move from one country to another?
Hmm.
Which one is your favorite as well, and
Yeah,
why?
yeah. So as I mentioned before, I moved from Brazil to Norway first, and it was because of my wife. She wanted to live abroad. We started planning, and then Norway kind of chose me because from the interviews that I got, the one that I went from the beginning until the end and got an offer was to work for whereby.com, the tool that we are using right now to meet here. So I built this tool together with the rest of the team. I love living in Norway. I even learned a little bit of Norwegian. Jeg snakker litt norsk. I just said that I speak a little bit of Norwegian. It's for sure the one of the nicest places that I have been in my life in terms of like where everything works and everything is clean and everything is safe, and public transport is just you pay from your mobile phone a ticket for the whole month, and you get inside a bus or a train or anything, and you don't need to show anything to no one. You just enter and sit, and sometimes some fiscal might come to see if you are with your valid ticket, but it's really nice. Um, it's very cold at the same time. I experienced minus 23 degrees at some point, which was
Oh
very
my
cold.
gosh.
During the 2 years that I lived there, it snowed for almost 6 months. And I think it's nicer when it snows than when it does not snow, because if it does not snow, then it's just dark and the snow makes it lighter. So I like the snow part of it. But we moved from Norway to the Netherlands because I was the only one that was able to get a job in Norway, because I work in tech. English is fine if you work in tech. For my wife,
Yeah.
as a marketeer, you have to speak a Nordic language like Norwegian or Danish or Swedish.
Yeah.
So we decided to move to a more international place. This is why we decided to go to the Netherlands and live in Amsterdam. The things that I loved in Amsterdam, the thing that I loved in Amsterdam is that it's a flat, or the whole country is mostly flat. and you can bike all around. So I would go to my job cycling. The first thing that you do when you arrive in the Netherlands is buy a second-hand bike, and you start experiencing cycling around. So I would go to my job by bike. I would go to the grocery store by bike. I would go to a party biking. You would go everywhere by bike, and this is the thing that I like the most there. The language is very difficult. I didn't learn Dutch. But everyone speaks English, which is good. Same in Norway, at least in the capitals. But the weather is not that great because it's very cold, it's very rainy, it's very windy, and this is why we decided to move from the Netherlands. And I'm gonna tell you, when we decided that we were already living in the Netherlands for 4 years, when we decided that we would move from the Netherlands to somewhere else, the first place that came to our mind was actually the UK and to live in London. And we had almost everything in place. We had everything in place for my wife to be transferred to the unit in London. It's actually not very, it's a city just besides London. I don't remember the name. But we would live in London. She would work for the same company. And in the last minute, I was like doing a YouTube live on my YouTube channel about over engineering, and I decided to search for some topics to do some research, and one of the topics was in Spanish, and then I was able to read it from the very first beginning until the end, and I realized that I was able to understand every word that I read, and I said, if I do know Spanish, because I studied Spanish when I was young, and I had contact with Uruguayans and Argentinians living in the south of Brazil, I thought to myself, you know what, I'm gonna just, for fun, search in the web for the best startups to work in Barcelona. And then I found a few job opportunities, and I applied for Typeform, and in 1 month I had gone through the whole process, and I got a job offer, and I told my wife, what if instead of London we moved to Barcelona? Because we wanted to go to a place where we wouldn't need to learn a new language as we had in Norway or in the Netherlands. So we already speak English, we already speak Spanish. What if we go to Barcelona? And she said, let me talk to my boss, and the company she works for, they have also it's an international company, so they have an office in Madrid. She works remotely, so she could move to here. And in the last minute, we decided to change, and we are here, and we are very happy. It's the best choice we have ever made because of 3 things that I probably have already mentioned, maybe in this podcast or in my YouTube channel or somewhere else. But it's the weather. It's just here. Like, it's actually a bit dry, which is, it might be a downside, but to what I was used to, but it's like, it's always sunny. It rains. Actually, we have some problem because sometimes it does not rain that much, and then we have some issues with water. But it's like, it's a very good weather. It's not very cold in the winter. Like today, it's February, and it's like.
Come on, we can see already. Like I'm wearing like a jacket, and you're like just almost. No
I'm just using a t-shirt and a short, and it's like almost 20 degrees in February, which last year it was very cold.
Yeah, you cannot see, but I have a blanket.
Yeah, so the weather is great here. The culture as well, it's a lot more similar to what we have in Brazil because it's a Latin culture, so it's something that we love in Spain as well, and the language. For quite a long time before moving to Europe, I told my wife that I wanted to live in Argentina because I wanted to be fluent in Spanish, and we never had the chance to go there for this experience. And nowadays I'm having this experience here in Spain. I talk to people in Spanish, I read in Spanish, I understand everything everyone says. I can even read Catalan. I don't speak Catalan. I can't understand anything people say in Catalan, but if I read, I can understand mostly. So yeah, it was the best choice we have ever made. It's just finishing 2 years in the end of February. So we are probably gonna apply for the permanent residency, and we are gonna stay here for a longer time. But yeah, this is a bit of my story, moving from Brazil to Europe and from these different countries until we found a place to stay.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, and that you jumped from one country to another, and all this flexibility as well. And yeah, and Barcelona. Yeah, to be honest, I don't blame you because the weather is much better than. I mean, the weather here in London is not as bad as Netherlands, because people think that is the worst. But yeah, definitely Barcelona is sunny. You know, and it's hot, warmer than here. Definitely.
Yeah. Rafa, is there any final message you would like to leave to our audience here? And thanks a lot for being here with us.
Yeah, no worries. Last message, I would say the same thing that I would, say to myself when I go, and the things that I do nowadays, and I tell myself nowadays is basically, if you have something in your mind and you're not sure, or you're afraid of, or you're thinking, no, I'm not gonna, especially like if you're jumping from one job to another, or one country to another, or whatever is, whatever you have in mind, just do it. Try. Of course, sometimes it's good to have a backup plan if something goes wrong, but just do it. Try and see. We have some kind of short life anyway. People think that is too much, but it's actually short. Things, they go so fast. Sometimes you are 20 and then you're 30 and then after 40, and that's it. So just go for whatever you have in mind and have a backup plan. But yes, just do it. Like Adidas. They should not Adidas, Nike. Oh my god. They should pay me. Just do it.
No worries. Thanks a lot again for being here with us. Thank you also for listening to the podcast. Don't forget to go to the show notes to get to know Rafa. I'm gonna leave here in the show notes her startup website and also her LinkedIn profile, so you can connect with her. And see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast was edited by Ralf Carneiro.